The blue light of the collapsing wormhole faded and Lauren Mitchell opened her eyes. Her hands shook on the controls of the Wanderer. 3 months. She had been trapped in that twisted pocket of space for 3 months, watching time bend and reality crack at the edges. Every day she thought she might die. Every night she dreamed of home. Now she was free. The instruments showed normal space. Real space. Her space. Lauren pulled up the communication systems and sent a message toward Earth. Standard protocol. Ship ID, captain name. Requesting permission to return home. She waited. No response came. She tried again. Still nothing. Lauren frowned and checked her systems. Everything worked fine. The radio was broadcasting. Someone should answer. Earth's communication network never went dark. Never. She tried Mars Colony next. Then Europa Station. Then the outpost on Titan. Silence. Complete silence. Her chest felt tight. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Lauren set course for Proxima Centauri. It was humanity's first colony outside the solar system. 15,000 people lived there. They had farms and schools and families. If something happened to Earth, Proxima would know. Proxima would help. The jump took 6 hours. Lauren spent them trying to stay calm. Maybe the communication arrays were damaged. Maybe there was a solar storm. Maybe her equipment was broken after the wormhole incident. There were explanations. Good explanations. But when the Wanderer dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Proxima, Lauren knew the explanations were lies, she told herself. The orbital platforms were gone. Not damaged. Gone. Twisted metal floated where defense stations once protected the colony. The space elevator that connected the surface to orbit hung broken, its cable drifting like a dead snake. Lauren's fingers moved across her controls, bringing up visual sensors. She pointed them at the planet below. Where New Seattle should shine with lights, there was darkness. Where the agricultural domes should glow green, there were black craters. Where 15,000 people should live and love and laugh, there was nothing but ash. Lauren's hand covered her mouth. She tasted bile. A large object floated past her ship. She turned her cameras toward it. It was a monument, a massive structure made of dark stone, carved with symbols from dozens of alien languages. Lauren had studied xenolinguistics at the academy. She could read most of them. The message was the same in every language. Here ends the age of humanity. By order of the collective, this plague upon the galaxy has been cleansed. Lauren sat in her chair staring at the words. Cleansed. They called humans a plague. They called the murder of 15,000 people cleansing. She jumped to the next human world. Then the next. Then the next. Each time the same story. Destroyed colonies. Shattered stations. Monuments declaring victory over the human plague. On the 5th world, Lauren found more than ruins. She found a data core, half-melted, barely functional, but intact enough to read. She downloaded its contents with shaking hands. The recording started with a woman's face. She wore the uniform of a colony administrator. Her name tag said Patricia Holloway, and her eyes showed fear but also courage. The recording showed the colony's last hours. Alien ships arrived without warning. 12 different species all working together. They called themselves the Collective. They demanded surrender. Patricia Holloway asked why. What had humanity done? The alien commander laughed. Humanity existed, he said. That was crime enough. Humans were too clever, too adaptable, too dangerous to be allowed to spread. Better to end them now, while they were still weak. The colonists fought. They had no military ships, no heavy weapons, but they fought anyway. Lauren watched families barricade schools, watched engineers try to repair damaged shields, watched ordinary people become heroes in the last moments of their lives. It was not enough. The collective had planned this for years. Every human world was attacked at the same time. Earth, Mars, Europa, Titan, Proxima, New Beijing, Terra Nova. All of them. Billions of people. All dead in a single coordinated strike. The recording ended with Patricia Holloway speaking directly to the camera. Her facility was burning around her. She coughed from the smoke. To whoever finds this, she said, we were not perfect. We made mistakes, but we deserved to exist. We had children who would have grown up to do amazing things. We had dreams. We had hope. Remember us, please remember us and avenge us. The screen went dark. Lauren sat alone in her ship. She was the only human left. The only one who escaped because she was trapped in a wormhole when the killing began. Everyone she ever knew was dead. Her parents on Earth, her brother on Mars, her friends scattered across the colonies. All gone, she could run. The galaxy was huge. She could disappear beyond the rim, live out her life in isolation, die alone but alive. Or she could honor Patricia Holloway's last request. Lauren pulled up her ship's systems. The Wanderer was designed for deep space research. It had advanced sensors that could detect ships from light years away. It had experimental weapons meant for asteroid mining. It had AI systems that could learn and adapt. It had stealth technology to avoid detection in dangerous space. Most importantly, it had something no alien could understand. It had a human at the controls, a human who just lost everything. A human with nothing left to lose and a very specific set of skills. Lauren began making modifications to her ship. She studied everything she could find about the collective. Their technology, their psychology, their weaknesses. She had been a xenobiologist before becoming a ship captain. She knew how aliens thought, knew what scared them, knew how to hurt them. She spent 3 weeks preparing, 3 weeks alone with her grief and her rage and her plans. When she finished, the Wanderer was no longer a research vessel. It was a weapon. Lauren looked at her reflection in a dark screen. She barely recognized herself. Her eyes looked different, harder, colder. Good, she thought. The woman who went into that wormhole was dead anyway. The woman who came out was someone new, someone the collective would learn to fear. She set course for Helion 9, a collective mining operation. Time to begin. Time to make them remember what they tried to forget. Time to teach the galaxy why humans were dangerous, not because of their weapons or their ships, but because of what they became when you took everything from them. Lauren Mitchell was the last human alive, and she was going to make the entire galaxy pay attention. Helion 9 floated in the darkness between stars. The asteroid mining station was small by collective standards. 2,000 workers, mostly Kraith. The insect-like aliens had led the first attacks on Earth. They celebrated human extinction with festivals. Lauren had seen the broadcasts. She positioned the Wanderer behind a large asteroid, activating full stealth mode. Her ship became invisible to their sensors. Then she waited and watched. The Kraith worked in shifts, sending mining drones deep into the asteroids. They extracted rare metals used in building monuments. Monuments celebrating humanity's death. Lauren's jaw tightened. She did not attack the station directly. That would be too simple, too quick. She wanted them to feel what she felt. Fear, confusion, helplessness. Lauren started small. She hacked into their communication array using techniques she developed during the long, lonely weeks after discovering the genocide. The first change was subtle. Messages started arriving a few seconds late, then a few minutes, then not at all. The station engineers ran diagnostics. They found nothing wrong. The equipment worked perfectly, yet communications failed randomly. It made no sense. Next, Lauren targeted the mining drones. She took control of one, directing it into a deep tunnel where sensors could not track it. The drone simply vanished from all systems. Then another disappeared, then 3 more. The Kraith sent workers to investigate. They found the drones powered down in the tunnels, their memory cores wiped clean. No explanation. No malfunction codes, just empty machines sitting in the dark. Fear spread through the station. Workers started reporting strange things. Shadows that moved wrong. Sounds in the vacuum where sound should not exist. Equipment that turned on by itself in empty rooms. Lauren watched it all happen through their security cameras. She had complete access to their systems. She could see everything, hear everything. She saw the workers jump at shadows, saw them refuse to go into the tunnels alone, saw the station administrator sending increasingly desperate messages to collective command. After 2 weeks, the station was barely functional. Workers demanded transfers. Production stopped. The administrator ordered an evacuation. That was when Lauren sent her message. She carved it into the main computer core using the mining lasers. The words appeared in 17 languages, the same languages used on those monuments celebrating human extinction. You forgot one. Lauren left before the investigation team arrived. She monitored their communications as they searched the station. They found nothing but frightened workers and mysterious malfunctions. And her message. The collective leadership tried to keep it quiet, but word spread. Some humans survived. Somewhere out there, one of them was still alive and angry. Lauren's next target was bigger. The collective was holding a diplomatic summit on Nexus Prime, a neutral station where leaders from all 12 species would meet. They planned to discuss how to divide former human territories among themselves. She studied the station's layout for days. Security was heavy, but security could not stop what they could not see. Lauren had spent her career studying alien biology. She knew the Kraith better than they knew themselves. She engineered a specialized pathogen in her ship's small medical lab. It was not lethal. She could have made it lethal easily, but death was too quick. She wanted them to suffer differently. The pathogen caused hallucinations specific to Kraith brain chemistry. It would make them see their worst fears, make them relive their darkest memories, make them scream. Lauren infiltrated the station's air recycling system. She released the pathogen 12 hours before the summit began. It spread through the Kraith delegation quarters silently, invisibly. The summit opening ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions watched as the 12 species celebrated their victory over humanity. The Kraith delegation stood together on stage, their leader beginning a speech about the glorious future. Then the screaming started. Every Kraith on that stage collapsed. They shrieked and clawed at things no one else could see. They shouted about ghosts and shadows and vengeance. Medical teams rushed forward. The broadcast cut to an emergency screen, but not before someone noticed something impossible on the video feed. Lauren had timed it perfectly. She stood at a window overlooking the ceremony, visible for exactly 3 seconds, just long enough for the cameras to catch her face. Just long enough for facial recognition to identify her. Captain Lauren Mitchell, status deceased, died in a wormhole collapse 3 years ago. Except she was not dead. She was very much alive, and she was coming for them. The collective mobilized immediately. They assigned Admiral Vex Corthan to hunt her down. Corthan was Virillian, a species known for military excellence. He commanded 3 battle fleets and had never lost an engagement. Corthan studied the attacks. He read everything available about humans and their military history. He learned about guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, asymmetric combat. He realized quickly that Lauren Mitchell was not a random survivor. She was a trained professional using every skill she possessed. He understood something his superiors did not. This was not a woman fighting for survival. This was a woman who had already lost everything and was now fighting for revenge. That made her far more dangerous than any conventional military threat. Corthan set a trap. He predicted Lauren would target collective supply convoys. They were vulnerable and symbolically important. He positioned a convoy along a known smuggler route with minimal visible security. Hidden nearby, 3 warships waited in stealth mode. Lauren did target the convoy, but not in the way Corthan expected. She did not attack the ships. She did not board them or destroy them. Instead, she hacked their navigation systems remotely. 3 cargo ships suddenly changed course. Their crews tried to regain control but failed. The ships jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading directly toward the collective capital system. They dropped out of FTL travel in the heart of the capital, their momentum carrying them directly toward the Senate building. Emergency alert screamed. Defense systems engaged, but cargo ships were not designed for evasive maneuvers. The ships crashed through the Senate chamber during a live broadcast. The building collapsed in spectacular fashion. Debris scattered across the city below. Casualties were surprisingly minimal. Later analysis showed that Lauren had timed the crash for a specific moment. She had accessed the Senate schedule and knew the building would be evacuated for a fire drill, exactly 3 minutes before impact. The fire drill alarm she triggered herself. The message was clear. She could reach anywhere, strike anyone, at any time, and she was choosing to let them live not out of mercy, but so they could spread fear. Corthan watched the Senate destruction on his command screen. He felt something he rarely experienced. Respect. Lauren Mitchell was not simply attacking. She was communicating. Every strike carried meaning. Every action had purpose. He understood now. This was not war. This was a lesson. And the collective was learning that forgetting about one human was the worst mistake they ever made. The collective decided to fight back with propaganda. If they could not catch Lauren Mitchell, they would destroy her reputation. They broadcast her face across every screen in the galaxy. They called her a terrorist, a murderer, the last poisonous remnant of a dangerous species. They offered a bounty, 10 billion credits for her capture. Dead or alive, Lauren watched their broadcasts from her ship. She saw how they painted humans as monsters, how they justified the genocide, how they made themselves the victims of human aggression. She smiled. They just made a terrible mistake. Lauren had been preparing for this. While running from Corthan's fleets and executing her attacks, she had been infiltrating collective communication networks. She had access to everything. Every broadcast station, every data stream, every screen in collective space. She waited until the collective scheduled their biggest propaganda event, a galaxy-wide broadcast where leaders would speak about the human threat and their heroic victory. Billions would watch. Perfect. The broadcast began normally. The Kraith Prime Minister appeared on screens everywhere. She spoke about peace and prosperity now that the human threat was eliminated. She talked about how dangerous humanity had been. Then the signal changed. Every screen went black for 3 seconds. When the image returned, it was not the Prime Minister's face. It was Lauren's. She did not speak immediately. She let them see her face. Let them recognize her. Let the fear build. Then she began showing them videos. Footage recovered from human colonies during their final moments. She showed them children running from burning schools. Hospitals bombed from orbit. Families huddled together as the walls collapsed around them. She showed them the collective's own military recordings. The ones where commanders joked about exterminating vermin, where soldiers celebrated killing civilians, where leaders toasted to the successful cleansing of the human plague. Lauren let the galaxy see what they had done, what they had celebrated, what they had tried to hide behind words like cleansing and necessary measures. After an hour of this, Lauren finally spoke. Her voice was calm, too calm. "You wanted to erase us from history," she said. "You wanted the galaxy to forget we ever existed. You built monuments to your victory. You celebrated in the streets. You called us a plague and yourselves heroes." She paused. Let the silence stretch, but I remember. I remember every face you killed, every dream you destroyed, every future you stole, and I will make sure you never forget. The screen went dark again. The collective tried to regain control of their networks. It took them 6 hours. By then, Lauren's broadcast had been recorded and shared across countless systems. The truth was out. The consequences were immediate. Several collective member species had not known the full extent of the genocide. They believed human military forces were destroyed in legitimate warfare. They did not know about the systematic execution of civilians, about the deliberate targeting of children in hospitals. The Zelthani were a philosophical species who valued life above all else. They had joined the collective for economic reasons, not military ones. When they saw the truth, their entire government resigned in shame. They withdrew their fleet from collective service and declared neutrality. The Morphics were shapeshifters who had served as spies and infiltrators. They refused further assignments. Their council issued a statement condemning the genocide and apologizing to the memory of humanity. 3 other species called for peace negotiations with Lauren. They wanted to make amends somehow. They wanted to prove they were not like the others. The collective was fracturing. Internal dissent grew daily. Protests erupted on multiple worlds. Young people especially were horrified by what their governments had done in their names. Admiral Corthan watched it all happen from his flagship. His superiors demanded he catch Lauren quickly, before the entire alliance collapsed. But Corthan knew something they refused to accept. Lauren Mitchell was not fighting for peace. She was not seeking reconciliation or justice in the traditional sense. She was fighting to make them hurt the way she hurt, and she was succeeding. Corthan studied her attack patterns more carefully. Every target had symbolic significance. Every strike happened at a location connected to the genocide. She was not choosing targets randomly. She was following a pattern. He realized where she would strike next. The Kraith homeworld hosted a massive monument called the Victory Spire. It was built from the wreckage of Earth's orbital defense platforms. Every year, the Kraith held a celebration there to commemorate humanity's extinction. The next celebration was scheduled in 3 days. Lauren would not miss it. Corthan prepared the trap of his life. He surrounded the Victory Spire with sensor nets so sensitive they could detect a whisper in space. He positioned drones in a 3-dimensional grid covering the entire region. He placed his 3 best fleets in high orbit with weapons ready. If Lauren approached, they would see her. If she tried to cloak, the sensors would find her. If she attacked, the fleets would destroy her. It was perfect. The celebration began. Thousands gathered at the Victory Spire. They sang songs of victory. They praised their leaders. They looked up at the twisted metal from Earth's defenses and felt pride. Then the sensors detected something. A ship approaching cloaked. Lauren's ship. The Wanderer. Corthan's heart raced. Finally. After months of hunting, he had her. He ordered weapons to lock on target. Every ship in the fleet prepared to fire. Then Lauren did something unexpected. She dropped her cloak. She appeared on every screen, her face visible to everyone at the celebration and watching across the galaxy. Fire, Corthan ordered. Before his ships could launch their weapons, Lauren spoke. I knew about your trap, Admiral. I came anyway. Because while you were hunting me these past months, I was preparing something far more important than a few attacks on stations and monuments. She smiled, and it was not a happy smile. I have been inside your networks for weeks. Every system, every station, every ship. I built something while you chased shadows. I call it a virus, but that is too simple. It is a digital plague woven from human artificial intelligence and your own computational technology. It is in everything. Your life support systems, your navigation computers, your power grids, your prison doors, everything. Right now it sleeps. But with one command from me, it wakes up. And when it does, every space station loses life support. Every ship crashes. Every prison opens. Every power grid fails. Corthan felt ice in his veins. His technicians were already running scans, and their faces confirmed what Lauren said. The virus was there, dormant but present, in everything. I could kill billions, Lauren continued. I could end your civilization permanently. And after what you did to mine, would anyone blame me? The galaxy held its breath. Everyone watching knew she had the power. And everyone knew she had the justification. The question was, what would the last human choose to do? Silence filled the galaxy. Everyone watching the broadcast waited. Lauren Mitchell had the power to end billions of lives with a single command. Her finger hovered over the button that could collapse the entire collective civilization. Admiral Corthan made a decision. He opened a direct communication channel to Lauren's ship, not as an admiral to an enemy, but as one person to another. What do you want? He asked simply. Lauren was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, tired, heavy with grief. I want you to remember. I want every child in this galaxy to learn what happened to humanity. I want monuments, but not to your victory, to your crime. I want the truth carved into history so deep that 10,000 years from now, when your descendants look at the stars, they will know what you did. The collective leadership was forced to negotiate. They had no choice. Lauren's virus was everywhere, and their experts confirmed they could not remove it without triggering it. She held absolute power over their survival. They tried offering money first, trillions of credits, enough wealth to buy entire star systems. Lauren refused. They offered territory. They would give her 10 systems, 20, 50. She could rebuild humanity in peace. Lauren refused. They offered technology, ancient alien secrets, faster than light drives that made current engines look primitive, medical technology that could extend life for centuries. Lauren refused everything. She did not want wealth or power or comfort. She wanted something far more difficult. She wanted accountability. Lauren presented her demands. First, every species involved in the genocide must publicly acknowledge their crimes. Not vague statements about regrettable actions. Full admissions of genocide. Detailed accounts of what they did and why. Second, war crime tribunals must be established. Those who ordered the genocide, those who celebrated it, those who profited from it, all must face justice under their own species' laws. Third, all former human territories must be declared memorial zones. No colonization, no mining, no exploitation. For 1,000 years, these systems would remain untouched as sacred ground. Fourth, and most controversially, humanity's history must be taught in every school across the galaxy. Human culture, achievements, art, science, philosophy, all of it must be preserved and shared. The species they tried to erase must be remembered forever. The negotiations were brutal. Several hardline species refused. They argued that admitting genocide would destroy their governments, that their people would never accept it, that it was asking too much. Lauren demonstrated her seriousness. She chose a small mining colony on the edge of collective space. Not a major world, just a few thousand people. She activated her virus there for exactly 6 hours. Power failed. Life support systems shut down. Emergency backups did not work. For 6 hours, the colonists sat in darkness, oxygen slowly running out, wondering if they would die. Then, exactly on schedule, everything came back online. No one died. That was intentional. Lauren's message was clear. I can do this anywhere, anytime, to anyone. Make your choice. The hardline species agreed to negotiate, but while these public negotiations continued, Lauren struggled with her own conscience. She sat alone in her ship, staring at the control that could activate the virus fully. It would be so easy. One command and they would all suffer as humanity suffered. They would know the terror of extinction, the helplessness, the grief. Part of her wanted it, wanted to watch their civilization crumble, wanted them to feel what she felt when she discovered Earth was ashes, when she watched Patricia Holloway's final message, when she realized she was completely and utterly alone. But she remembered Patricia's words. We were not perfect, but we deserved to exist. Patricia did not ask for genocide in return. She asked to be remembered. She asked for justice, not massacre. Lauren faced a terrible choice. Revenge would be satisfying, immediate, complete. But it would also make her exactly what the collective claimed humans were: dangerous, destructive, unworthy of existence. If she killed billions, humanity would be remembered as monsters. But if she forced the galaxy to acknowledge the truth, to change, to teach future generations about what they did, then humanity would be remembered as people. Flawed people, but people who deserved better. Legacy or revenge. She could not have both. While Lauren wrestled with this decision, a conspiracy formed within the collective military. A group of hardline officers could not accept the humiliation of negotiating with a single human. They saw it as weakness, as surrender. They planned an assassination. If they could kill Lauren, the virus might become inactive. At worst, it would trigger and they would die honorably rather than live in shame. They traced her signal using military-grade sensors Corthan did not know they possessed. They launched a relativistic kill weapon. It was a simple cylinder of dense metal accelerated to 90% light speed. When it hit something, it released energy equivalent to a nuclear explosion. There was no defense, no warning, no escape. The weapon struck the Wanderer dead center. Lauren had only seconds of warning from her sensors. She ran for the escape pod, her hands flying over controls. Behind her, the ship's structure groaned and tore. She made it into the pod and launched just as the Wanderer's reactor breached. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. Debris scattered in all directions. The ship that had been her home for 5 years, the last piece of human engineering in the galaxy, was gone. The conspirators celebrated. They sent a message to Collective Command claiming they saved the galaxy from the human threat. They demanded medals and recognition. Then their computer system started shutting down. One by one, station by station, ship by ship, the virus was activating. Lauren had designed her virus with redundancy. It did not need her constant input. It was self-sustaining, governed by an artificial intelligence she programmed with her own values and knowledge. The AI monitored her vital signs. If she died, if her heart stopped, if she went too long without checking in, the virus would trigger automatically. The conspirators had not killed the threat. They had awakened it. Admiral Corthan acted immediately. He arrested the conspirators and sent every available ship to search the debris field. Lauren had to be alive, had to be. If she died, everyone died. His sensors found the escape pod drifting among the wreckage. He approached personally in a small shuttle, not wanting to send soldiers who might panic and do something stupid. Corthan opened the pod himself. Lauren was unconscious, bleeding from a head wound, but alive. Barely. He carried her to his shuttle and flew directly to his flagship's medical bay. Not as a prisoner, as someone who represented the only path forward. The only hope of survival for everyone. As medical teams worked to save her life, Corthan stood outside watching through a window. He realized something profound. Lauren Mitchell had become more than a woman. She had become an idea, a reminder, a warning, and ideas were much harder to kill than people. Lauren woke up in a medical bay. The ceiling was unfamiliar. The sounds were wrong. Her hand moved instinctively to check for the control device she wore on her wrist, the one connected to the virus. It was still there. Admiral Corthan sat in a chair beside her bed. He looked tired, older than his years. "You saved my life," Lauren said. Her voice was rough. "I saved everyone's life," Corthan replied. "The conspirators who attacked you have been arrested. They will face trial for attempted murder and endangering the entire collective. Lauren sat up slowly. Her head ached, but she needed to know. What happens now? Now we give you what you asked for, Corthan said. The collective leadership has agreed to all your terms. The tribunals will begin immediately. And they were true to their word. Within weeks, war crime tribunals opened across collective space. For the first time, the leaders who ordered the genocide faced justice. The trials were broadcast galaxy-wide. No one could look away. The whole civilized universe watched as military commanders admitted ordering the deaths of civilians. As politicians confessed to approving the systematic extermination. As industrialists testified about profiting from human suffering, evidence was presented. Recordings of orders being given, communications celebrating successful kills, financial records showing how companies bid for the rights to salvage human worlds. Witnesses testified, soldiers who participated in the attacks and now regretted it, intelligence officers who warned against the genocide and were ignored, even a few aliens who tried to help humans escape and failed. The galaxy was forced to confront what they had done, why they had done it, the fear that drove them, the lies they told themselves, the terrible truth that genocide did not happen because of evil monsters, but because ordinary people made terrible choices. Some of the accused received prison sentences. Others faced execution under their own species' laws. A few took their own lives rather than face judgment, but all of them were held accountable. Lauren attended every trial. She sat in the front row silent, her face emotionless. She wanted them to see her, to remember that their actions had consequences, that one human survived to bear witness. While the trials continued, construction began at Earth. The planet was still a dead world, its cities ruins, its oceans poisoned. But in orbit, something new took shape. The memorial complex was massive. Lauren designed it herself, working with architects from multiple species. She wanted something that would last forever, something that would make people understand. The complex contained museums displaying human history, from the first tools to the last starships. Art galleries showcasing paintings, sculptures, and music from every human culture. Libraries preserving books, films, and scientific papers. Gardens growing plants from Earth, kept alive in artificial environments. At the center of it all stood a simple black obelisk. It listed names. Every single human who died in the genocide. All 8,400,700,000 of them. The names were displayed holographically, scrolling slowly through the air. It took visitors hours to walk past them all if they wanted to see every name. That was intentional. Lauren wanted people to understand the magnitude of what was lost, to see that every number was a person. Every person had a name. Every name represented a life. The memorial's dedication ceremony was attended by representatives from every collective species. Billions watched the broadcast. Lauren stood before the obelisk and spoke. Her words were brief. You took my species from the universe. You silenced 8 billion voices. You destroyed countless futures. But you could not take our story. You could not erase what we were. This memorial ensures you never forget. Remember us. Learn from us. And never ever do this again. The final demand was implemented. Human history became mandatory curriculum across the galaxy. Alien children learned about Earth, about humanity's journey from primitive hunters to spacefaring civilization, about human philosophy, art, music, science. They studied Shakespeare and Mozart. They learned about Newton and Einstein. They read about democracy and human rights. They watched human films and listened to human songs. But most importantly, they learned about the genocide. They learned how fear and hatred could turn ordinary people into murderers. They learned that any civilization, no matter how advanced, was capable of terrible crimes when they stopped seeing others as people. The lesson was taught not to make children feel guilty, but to make them vigilant. To recognize the signs. To speak up when leaders used fear to justify cruelty. To remember that the price of civilization was constant attention to justice. Within a generation, things changed. Human phrases entered alien languages. Human stories became folktales told to children across the galaxy. Human music played in alien cities. Young people wore human-style clothing as a fashion statement. Humanity was extinct biologically but alive culturally. They were dead but not forgotten. They were gone but not erased. Lauren Mitchell lived for 30 more years. She never had children. Could not. She was the last human, and when she died, humanity would be truly gone. But she made peace with that. Her legacy was not genetic. It was cultural. She spent those years traveling the galaxy. She gave lectures at universities. She advised the new Interspecies Council on preventing future genocides. She worked to ensure the reforms were real and lasting, not just temporary political theater. Her virus remained embedded in every collective system. She never removed it. It was insurance. A reminder. A deterrent against backsliding. No one dared try to undo the changes she forced because everyone knew the consequences. Lauren and Corthan became unlikely friends. He retired from the military and joined her work on the Interspecies Council. They spent many evenings talking about what they learned, about how enemies could become allies, about how justice was harder but better than revenge. When Lauren died at age 62, the galaxy mourned. Not everyone loved her. Many still feared her, but everyone respected her. She could have destroyed them. She chose to teach them instead. Her funeral was held at Earth's memorial. Thousands attended. Millions more watched. Her ashes were scattered in orbit around her homeworld, joining the billions who came before her. They placed a memorial plaque next to the obelisk. It bore her name, her dates, and the words she chose herself. I was the last human alive. I made the galaxy remember what that meant. Years passed, decades, centuries. The memorial remained. The lessons continued, and slowly the galaxy changed. New laws were written protecting all species from genocide. New courts were established to prevent such crimes. New philosophies emerged about the value of diversity and the danger of fear. Humanity became a cautionary tale, a reminder, a standard. When politicians proposed discriminatory laws, people said, "Remember the humans." When military leaders suggested preemptive strikes against potential threats, council said, "Remember the humans." When anyone tried to justify cruelty with fear, the galaxy answered, "Remember the humans." 1,000 years after Lauren Mitchell's death, a young Kraith student visited Earth's memorial on a school trip. She stood before the obelisk watching names scroll past. She had studied human history, read their books, listened to their music. Her teacher asked what she learned. The student looked at the names, at the museums, at the gardens where earth plants still grew. "I learned that every name here was a person," she said quietly. "That they laughed and loved and dreamed. That they built beautiful things and terrible things. That they were not perfect, but they deserved to exist. That what we did to them was wrong. And that we must never forget." The teacher nodded. The lesson had been learned. Would always be learned. Generation after generation, Lauren Mitchell won her war. Not with weapons, not with violence, but with memory, with truth. With the absolute refusal to let her species be forgotten. She was the last human alive. And she made the entire galaxy beg for mercy. Then she gave them something better. She gave them wisdom. 5,000 years had passed since the last human died. The galaxy had changed in ways Lauren Mitchell could never have imagined. New species joined the Interspecies Council. Old conflicts were resolved. Technology advanced beyond anything the ancients could dream, but some things remained constant. The memorial at Earth still stood, maintained by volunteers from dozens of species. The museums were updated with new historical research. The gardens grew with careful tending, and every day thousands visited to pay their respects. On this particular day, a young Morphix named Kella arrived at the memorial. She was 15 years old by her species counting. Shapeshifters lived long lives, and she had many centuries ahead of her, but today she felt very small. Kella's school required all students to visit Earth's memorial before graduation, to see the obelisk, to walk through the museums, to understand what their ancestors did and why it must never happen again. She wandered through the Museum of Human History first. She saw ancient tools from Earth's early days, pottery and weapons and jewelry. She saw displays about human civilizations rising and falling, about wars and peace and progress. She visited the art gallery. Human paintings covered the walls. Some were realistic, showing faces and landscapes. Others were abstract, colors and shapes that somehow conveyed emotion. Kella stopped before a painting of a woman holding a child. The love in that image transcended species. She felt it even though the subjects were long dead. The music room played recordings of human songs. Kella listened to symphonies and rock music and quiet folk ballads. She did not understand all the words, but she understood the feelings. Joy, sadness, hope, longing. Humans felt the same emotions she felt. In the science wing, Kella learned about human achievements. They mapped their genetic code. They split the atom. They reached their moon using computers less powerful than a modern toy. They sent probes beyond their solar system carrying messages to anyone who might find them. "Hello," the messages said. "We are human. We exist. We hope you are kind." Kella found that heartbreaking. Humans hoped for kindness and received genocide instead. The final room was the hardest. It documented the genocide itself. Not in graphic detail, but honestly. Videos showed human colonies under attack. Recordings played of final messages from people who knew they were dying. Statistics displayed how coordinated the killings were, how thorough, how merciless. Kella sat on a bench in that room for a long time. She felt shame even though she was not born when it happened. Even though her ancestors were among those who withdrew from the collective when they learned the truth. Shame was not about personal guilt. It was about species memory, about acknowledging that her kind was capable of such things. Finally, she went outside to see the obelisk. The black monument stood tall against the stars. Names scrolled through the air in letters of light. 8,400,700,000 names. Each one a person who laughed and cried and loved and dreamed. Kella watched the names scroll past. She read them randomly. Alex Parker, Chen Wei, Maria Rodriguez, Jamal Washington, Yuki Tanaka, Sarah O'Brien, every name different. Every name precious. An old Virillian stood beside her. He wore the uniform of a retired admiral. His scales were gray with age. "First time here?" he asked gently. "Yes," Kella said. "It is overwhelming." "It should be," the admiral replied. "I come here every year on the anniversary of the genocide. To remember. To make sure I never forget what my species did." "Were you alive when it happened?" I was. I was a young officer. I did not participate in the attacks, but I said nothing against them either. That silence is something I carry every day. Kella looked at him. "You knew Lauren Mitchell?" The last human, the admiral's expression changed. "Became softer, I did. She saved my life once. Not physically. She saved me from becoming something worse than I was. She taught me that mercy was not weakness and justice was not revenge." "What was she like?" Kella asked. The recordings show her speeches and actions, but not who she was. The admiral thought for a moment. "She was the saddest person I ever met. And the strongest. She carried grief that would have destroyed most people. But she turned that grief into purpose. She could have killed us all. We gave her every reason. But she chose to make us better instead." He pointed to the plaque beside the obelisk. "Lauren's memorial. Read what she wrote," he said. Kella approached the plaque. "I was the last human alive. I made the galaxy remember what that meant." Simple words, but they contained everything. Lauren Mitchell had been alone. Utterly, completely alone. The last of her kind. And she used that terrible position to change everything. "Did she succeed?" Kella asked. "Did she really change things?" The admiral smiled. "You are here, are you not? Learning about humans, feeling their loss, vowing to prevent such horrors. That is her success. She made humanity immortal through memory and through the changes she forced upon us." The old Virillian walked toward the gardens. Kella followed. They passed flowers from Earth carefully maintained and controlled environments. Roses, sunflowers, cherry blossoms. "Do you know the most remarkable thing?" the admiral asked. "Human DNA is extinct. No living cells remain. We have genetic sequences in databases but no way to recreate them. Yet human culture thrives. Human ideas spread across the galaxy. Human stories are told in 1,000 languages. Human music plays in alien cities. They are dead, but they persist." Kella understood. Humans proved that a species could transcend biology, that ideas and culture were more powerful than genes, that being remembered was a form of immortality. "I studied Lauren Mitchell in school," Kella said. "They called her the Ghost Warrior, the terror of the collective, the last human. But those names do not capture who she was, do they?" "No," the admiral agreed. "She was a teacher. The most important teacher the galaxy ever had. She taught us about justice, about accountability, about the cost of hatred, and she taught us that even one person armed with purpose and knowledge can reshape civilization." They sat together on a bench overlooking Earth. The planet was still dead. 5,000 years was not enough to heal the damage, but someday it might recover. Someday life might return. Not human life, but life nonetheless. What do you think humans would say if they could see the galaxy now? Kella asked. The Admiral considered this. I think they would be proud that we learned. Sad that it cost their extinction to teach us, but proud that we did not waste their sacrifice. Kella thought about her own future. She would become a diplomat like she planned. She would work to resolve conflicts peacefully. She would remember the humans and what happened when fear replaced compassion. She would be part of making sure it never happened again. Before leaving, Kella returned to the obelisk one more time. She found a name at random. Julie Henderson. She wondered who Julie had been, what she dreamed about, who loved her. What she might have accomplished if given the chance, Kella would never know. But she would remember. That was enough. That was everything. As her transport lifted off from Earth's memorial, Kella looked back at the obelisk standing against the stars. A monument to 8 billion lost souls, a warning carved into eternity, a teacher that would instruct every generation until the end of time. Lauren Mitchell had been the last human alive. She could have used her power for revenge, could have destroyed the collective in one final act of justified rage. Instead, she chose something harder and more meaningful. She made them beg for mercy. Then she showed them what mercy actually meant. Not forgetting, not excusing, but learning, growing, changing. The galaxy was better because one woman refused to let her species be forgotten, because she understood that the best revenge was not destruction, but transformation, because she knew that ideas outlive bodies and memory conquers death. Humans were gone, but humanity lived on. In the laws protecting all species, in the education teaching tolerance, in the hearts of young people like Kella, who vowed to do better, in the stories told across the galaxy about a species that deserved to exist and the one woman who made sure they would never be forgotten. She was the last human alive. And she made the entire galaxy beg for mercy. Then she gave them something more valuable than mercy. She gave them wisdom. She gave them responsibility. She gave them a future where such horrors would never happen again. And in doing so, Lauren Mitchell ensured that while humans might be extinct, humanity itself would be eternal.